This is episode 220 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Control and Compound Financial. They teach real estate investors how to multiply their wealth using infinite banking strategies. For a complimentary wealth coaching session or to learn more, visit www.controlandcompound.com/Andrew Hines. Welcome to episode 220 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today I've got Zac Willms on the show, and Zac is a business partner of mine on our campground hospitality business, which is growing. And he's also just a really good guy and a really accomplished real estate investor and entrepreneur. So I had him back for an interview. He was on the show a few years ago, I believe. I don't know the exact episode number, but we had a good chat then, and we sort of just picked up where we left off, what he's up to. Zac's a higher-minded guy. He's big on getting in rooms with people who are doing better than he is and growing, and it's very, very evident from his results that he's growing his mindset, he's growing his capabilities and competencies. He's been a great guy to work with on our business, and today was just a good chat. So one of the main focuses of our conversation today is how Zac started in duplexes and triplexes in Hamilton and surrounding area, and now he is investing in a development in Tulum, Mexico. And I really like to just demystify international investing and doing these bigger projects. At the end of the day, you're in the long run going to spend a similar amount of time doing a duplex BRRRR as you will doing a larger development. It's all about finding the right team members, putting the right pieces in place, and then rinsing and repeating. And I think my US investing is a big testament to that, as I just have sold my first one, and it's probably the least I've ever worked on a project, almost certainly the least I've ever worked on a project. Mainly I just had to make sure the money was there, and the rest of it sort of has been taken care of by a good team. This episode focuses on that, not getting bogged down in headlines or hype, really focusing on what the facts are, what the situation actually is, being objective, and really just crushing it out. So it was a great chat with Zac. A couple of reminders. One is every month we have the GTA West REI meetup. Make sure you're in the Facebook group. That link is in the show notes for this episode. Again, it's happening monthly. We'd love to see you there. It's a good opportunity if you want to meet me and meet several of the people in our network. Make sure you're there. It's a great room of people. And another thing I wanted to point out is if you're new to real estate investing, or if you just want to hear about really awesome deals, off-market deals, hear me talk about what's happening in the marketplace, check out REI Hot Seat. This is the sister channel to this one on YouTube. The link for that is also in the show notes for this episode. So without further ado, let's jump into the episode with Zac Willms. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I've got my friend and business partner on the show, Zac Willms. Zac, thanks for walking 30 feet and sitting down on this couch.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I say that tongue in cheek. Obviously, we do a lot of stuff together while our camp, and now we're working on another one, which we haven't spilled the beans on just yet. But you're doing a million other things outside of that, and I want to hear about it, because I truly, when we do our business meetings, I don't know what you're up to.
Yeah.
I see the odd post. You travel more than most people I know. And but yeah, for anyone who hasn't heard you talk before, you were on the show, and we were trying to figure out when this was, probably like 100 episodes ago, maybe.
It's gotta be, almost 3 years ago at this point.
Yeah, so anyone who hasn't seen that, just give them the rundown. What got you into real estate? What are you up to now, and what happened? Everything in between.
Yeah, I guess the quick story would be, probably been in real estate now for 7 years. Started off buying, the single family home, into the student rentals, the duplexes, the triplexes, the BRRRRs, the 6-unit conversion. Really just fell in love with real estate and fell in love with kind of everything about it. I did a couple flips in my day. Done some short-term rentals, obviously doing short-term rentals on a larger scale now with the campground. Mm-hmm. And then, got my license about 6 years ago. Really enjoyed selling real estate, but really wanted to focus on selling real estate for the investors and dealing with more of the commercial product than dealing with the more residential product. So made that a big focus probably 2 years ago, where I just said, you know what, now's the time to make my transition into commercial and really focus on working with investors and kind of niche down and get really, really good at that, instead of just being that broad scale agent that kind of deals with a lot of different things.
Yeah, so actually, I do have a question for you on that. I
Yeah.
mean, there are, in our circles, there's a lot of people who focus in on investor-focused real estate. Is there like a sub niche within that? Like, are you the development guy? Are you mixed use, commercial, multifamily? Like, what's your sweet spot?
Yeah, I would definitely say the sweet spot is multifamily, right?
Like
It's what I know
large,
the
small?
best. Yeah, definitely getting into the larger multifamily now. The small multifamily was my bread and butter, right?
Like that's what
Doing
you start with, like the duplex conversions and
exactly,
what?
right? I think I've done 3 or 4 BRRRRs now from inception to completion. So I mean, knowing those numbers well and being able to talk to those numbers makes it a lot easier to actually help clients buy those properties. But now getting into the larger buildings, it's way more, what's the most up and coming, type of development happening right now,
Yeah.
right? And to me, it's the larger buildings. To me, it's what I love. And to me, it's what I'm looking at every single day.
Yeah, so the ones you did as BRRRRs, like what's the average size, like number of units?
Usually they're always single family to either triplex or fourplex.
Yeah, because I think you were doing last time. I think we talked about a triplex with a garage, like a
Yeah, I
six
have one of
stall.
those. Still have that. Still with the 6 garages in the back.
6 garages.
Yeah.
Well, how big is your property to have that?
It's, you know what? I don't know the exact square footage because it's an odd shape. It's like rectangular. Then at the back, it kind of extends like an L shape.
Okay.
So I don't know the exact square footage.
So
but
it's
on
pretty
the
wide
back,
at the back, though.
super wide at the back, and it like
Yeah.
backs onto a laneway. So it's like there's this like really interesting shaped property. But there's 6 garages back there, and I absolutely love that property. Still one of my favorite
Sweet.
today.
That must cash flow like a beast.
It does cash flow very well. I actually increased the rents across the commercial garages recently as well, just because they were all under rented. And it's one of those things where it's a lot easier in the commercial world to increase rents than it is in the residential, because you're not dealing with the residential
Oh yeah,
tenancy
it's
act.
just whatever, right?
So it's the commercial tenancy act, which is way better for us.
So how did that come about? Like, the garage was already there, and you just needed to?
Garages were already
Did you have to
there.
renovate it
No, nothing. I literally just bought it with the garages
as
in
a
place.
triplex?
It was a duplex on the main property with 6 garages in the back.
Mhm.
So I literally just bought it, started operating it much better than what it was, and just continued to increase the cash
And
flow
is it
over
operating
time.
as a triplex now?
It's operating as 2 units with 6 garage tenants.
Oh, okay. So no, I thought it was a triplex.
Yeah.
Okay.
No triplex.
Okay. So then what are you getting on average for those garages now?
Right now we're talking about $500-$600 a month per garage. Yeah.
Who do you like? How do you find tenants for this? Just
It's
in
honestly very easy. Because it's like it is still downtown Hamilton, so there is a lack of storage. And the garages, they're not garages. I mean, like these are like huge sheds, right?
Okay.
So you could drive cars into them. You could store, up to an amount of things inside these garages. It's not just like your little 10 by 20. It's much bigger than that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you bought that, like what price point were we talking?
When we bought that, I think we were at 525,000.
525.
Yeah.
So easily covering the mortgage then with the house.
Oh, easily.
And then everything on the garages are just pure gravy.
Cash. I know. Yeah, that's why I still say it's probably one of my favorite properties I bought.
Yeah.
Maybe outside of.
So 6 times 500.
Yeah.
So that property is what, like $4,000 a month cash flow?
Yeah, we're doing pretty good. I mean, there is expenses, right? Like with any property, but I think the cash flow is somewhere around like $2,000.
And is that was that commercially zoned or just pure residential?
No, still pure residential.
Any issue like tax planning wise with the commercial use? Or have you talked to your accountant about that, or is he?
Right now, we're all just claiming it as residential income.
Okay, just residential income. So you're not charging HST on that.
No,
That's
no
stuff.
HST.
Okay.
No, because it just uses like a storage space, right?
Yeah,
like
for
nobody
residential
can operate
storage.
a business out of it.
Yeah.
Right, like that's all in my lease. You can't operate a business, obviously, like hazardous materials and things like that. So it's mostly just all residential.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's such a cool property. I wouldn't mind one of those.
I'll bring you by one day.
Yeah, gotta check that one out. Okay, so what else on the grand scale? Like, I mean, you started with a lot of the miscellaneous smaller projects. You're working up into. I know you've done some larger scale BRRRRs on multifamilies as well. And then we were just talking off camera. You're doing something in Mexico.
Correct.
Sounds like. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I found my passion for traveling, right? That was my big goal. So back in 2021, I left in January for 9 months, traveled to like 19 different countries, just had an incredible experience. But the entire time I was traveling, I was always looking at real estate, right? When you're addicted to something, you're always thinking about it. And I was going to these different countries, thinking about real estate, talking to realtors, talking to developers, and never really found something that just made sense. And then it wasn't until late last year that I went down to Tulum, Mexico, and things just started to click. It made sense. I was looking at the economics. I was talking to realtors and developers, and you could just see a certain energy in that city that was happening, and I just wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So we just actually locked up 2 pieces of land down there with inside of a master plan community. I have a couple partners on that. And our idea is to basically build 1 villa to sell it to the market, and then build 1 villa to keep it and short-term rental it. So
okay,
it's official as of basically today.
Very cool. Well, congrats. I think and Darren Voros was on here talking about doing something similar in Costa Rica.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think you're friends with him as well, right?
100%. He is definitely, I'll give him a shout out for that. He's definitely an inspiration behind
that model.
The model, yeah.
Because you don't want to try and get the financing, right? That's ultimately going to be your hurdle, right? If people think it's challenging in the States, which it's actually not, but it's new. I can imagine it'd be very challenging with the language barrier and all that.
And I mean, the options are very less, like they're a lot less. There's, certain mortgages are there, but it's like 65% loan to value and 10% interest, right? So you're at private rates. So for us, we're like, if we can build a villa to sell it to make the profits to fund the other one and actually keep that, then it's almost like doing a BRRRR in Mexico. Almost.
Have you dug into the tax treatment within their Mexican corporations, that if you roll that money, I don't know how,
they don't have like a 1031 exchange.
Something like that.
I wish they did. They don't at this point. We are still working with our accountants to figure out what's the best way to basically hold the asset and obviously earn the income as well. But at this point, it's basically like, if you keep the money in Mexico, you're not going to get taxes hard on it, of course, because you're not bringing it back.
Well, we were talking off camera, and you were thinking about having the Mexican corporation owned by your Canadian corporation. I mean, active income in Canadian corporations for the first 550, I think it is like super low compared to a lot of the rest of the world.
Exactly.
So that's obviously good. If and when you bring it back, I think your only issue would be you're going to pay the corporate tax there first
in Mexico,
and then pay it again here.
Could
be worse, but if you leave it there and just let it grow.
It could be worse. Our idea probably is going to be to leave it down there for the most part and probably just reinvest it back in Mexico. I'm also a big fan of the Mexican peso, not to switch, topics to the currency.
Oh, we're definitely going to talk about currency.
But I mean, it's a really good currency right now. Mexico is kind of perfectly situated for the industrial revolution that's happening, where, they're doing a lot less. The United States and Canada are buying a lot less from China and Asia and buying a lot more in Mexico. So they're building the products in Mexico and shipping from Mexico and actually making it cheaper than it is to go get in Asia. So I really like where the peso's at in kind of the whole geopolitical world and landscape right now.
Yeah, well, let's just go ahead and talk about that, because we're talking about Mexico right now. Let's, why Mexico to begin with? I mean, you said a lot of places you looked at didn't think that they made as much sense. I'm very much the same way. I was very hesitant to get into something new when I started seeing things here go in a way I didn't like. It took me a while before I settled on doing new construction in Florida, for instance. You obviously saw a lot of stuff. Vibe was one of them. Numbers are another big part of it. Like, what are the numbers, or what else was it that appealed?
Yeah, the numbers were definitely there. I mean, the return on investment that we're getting is substantial enough to make it attractive for us to take the risk to invest into a different country. Right. Because there was other countries I saw where I'm like, okay, we're making a decent return, but I'm like, I can get that in Canada for way less risk, because I know Canada like the back of my hand.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to invest somewhere else for the same return.
Exactly.
Unless you have a reason to want to invest in that place.
Yeah, and there could be other reasons, lifestyle, other things other things that I thought about. But to me, Mexico was definitely the numbers. I like how fast the government actually does what they say they're going to do. And I love how much they are trying to encourage tourism to the country.
Yeah.
Right. So they're doing things like the Mayan train. They're doing things like the Tulum airport. They're actively searching out ways to bring more tourism to their country.
Okay.
Right. Where I went to other countries and they were kind of like, we're happy about the tourism, so we're not going to really encourage it any more than what's already coming in. Right. Whereas Mexico's like full force, like they're investing billions of dollars into infrastructure, roads, trains, airports to help tourism come to the country.
That's interesting. Now, obviously, there's the stereotype of Mexican government corruption, and the cartel running things. Those are just two of the commonly held beliefs, I think, among most people. But I'm curious, like, how do you feel about that? How much of that is true from what you've seen in that area? And is that a concern? Are you just planning that you've got a certain amount of money set aside for greasing palms, bribing officials, or is it just a lot more like here?
I would say the media obviously makes it look a lot worse than it is. But it's also not bad to have cash on you at all times, just in case of any situation.
In case you get pulled over.
Yeah. But from all the research we did and the people that we talked to, boots on the ground, everybody says, the cartel and different groups leave people in real estate alone because you're attracting tourism to come to the city. Mm-hmm. And the tourists are basically the people that are keeping them in business, right? Yeah. They own all the tourist establishments. They own the beach clubs and the clubs, the restaurants. They want tourists to come there because the tourists spend the most money.
Yeah.
Right. So they still want to make it attractive for tourists. So they don't.
That's why they make sure tourists are left alone, right?
Exactly. So they don't mess with tourists, right? Unless you're obviously asking for trouble. I mean, you're going to find trouble anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. So they don't, kind of mess with our business in the real estate world. But if you wanted to open up a restaurant and serve alcohol or something in that sense, that's where we've heard that they like to come in and just ask for money and things like that.
Yeah. Well, basically they do exactly what the government does. Exactly. It's just another tax.
Yeah.
I mean, government's just another cartel, if we're being honest.
It's just another tax.
Yeah, exactly. So you got the cartel tax. Yeah. Okay. But you're not thinking that that's going to be an issue for you?
No, for us, everyone we've talked to down there that's in the real estate world said that you guys don't have to worry, right? They really do leave people in real estate alone. They know Airbnb is happening, and all of us investing money into their country is bringing more tourists
bringing
down
the people there.
Right? So it's like, okay, we're helping them almost in a bad way.
Almost.
I'll say that.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really looked into what they're up to too much lately. I've just heard things.
Yeah.
So no one just jumps into a place like this without some references. Whether it be people that were doing it. Maybe it was Darren showing the boldness of doing Costa Rica. Well, if you can do Costa Rica, I can do this. Because Costa Rica has problems too.
Yeah.
But also really good areas that are really desirable. Did you know other people who were already doing this? Or was this just like three people with a lot of experience and gusto ready to do something new?
It was definitely a little bit of both. I know people that have bought real estate in Mexico. So we were able to have those conversations. Didn't know anybody that bought real estate in Tulum at that point. But obviously spending some time with Darren down in Costa Rica helped, understanding kind of, some of the challenges that he had going through and buying property in a different country, right? Some of the right questions to ask about buying property in a different country. And then I've spent about 3 weeks down in Tulum. So you really get to know people down there. You really get a good chance to talk to a lot of different realtors and developers, lawyers, and really just understand what it takes to actually pull this off.
How's the English down there?
Actually fantastic.
So because it's touristy, like
exactly.
People speak.
Yeah. I mean, our real estate agent we're working with down there, he's from the UK. One of the developers is from the UK, the builders from Mexico City, and they all speak perfect English.
I love stuff like this, like, because there's so many people who would listen to this and be like, I could never do that. I just want to buy my first duplex. And you're doing something that's like mystified and sort of demystifying it. Like there's a lot of hype. People live in fear. They live in the headlines.
Big time.
Like even I'm just posting an episode of REI Hot Seat tonight. By the time this airs, it'll be out. But I was talking about the new strengthening tenant rights in Ontario.
Yeah, I know.
As a headline, sounds terrible. What they've actually done is almost meaningless to an investor who's savvy. Like it won't make a difference.
No.
But for the wrong people, it will make a difference. Like people who aren't paying attention. I get the sentiment. Obviously, Ontario is not very landlord friendly, so not welcome advice. But the key thing is, don't live in the headlines. Don't live in what you heard from somebody who knows somebody. I think the best thing it boils down to is like, be careful who you're taking advice from.
Exactly. And get boots on the ground, right? Yeah. Don't just trust what the media says. Go there and actually see it for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Trust your own eyes, right? Because I mean, everybody has an agenda in what they say, right? Every news organization, every politician, everything.
Yeah.
It's all agenda driven. So trust your own eyes, go see things for yourself. Mm-hmm. I love this. So what are you thinking, like, first off, land price? What are you buying the land for? Yep. What are you planning to build, and what's that going to cost?
So we're purchasing the land they do everything in square meters, right? So it is
technically, so do we, but we just convert it. They fell for the metric thing too.
They did. They kept it. So square meters. So we're buying $300 a square meter. And we bought
for the land?
For the land. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And we got 854 square meters on the one, and then 957 square meters on the other one. So I think on the 957, when I did the math, it was like 291,000 USD. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
291. Okay, so yeah, I was so 300 a square meter. You said on the
300
one,
square meter,
which is how many square meters?
Which is square feet. You mean?
No, you said 300 per square meter.
Yeah.
And then how many square
300 per
meters
square
is it?
meter, it was 957
957. So that's like 287
287
US dollars?
US dollars.
So they quote their prices in US dollars, not pesos?
Yeah, all US dollars.
Well,
Real estate's in US dollars.
Oh, okay.
When
So
you go to
everything else-
restaurants, everything else is in pesos.
Interesting.
I think it's just because the number would look too big, right? It's easier to see like the US dollar number than it is to see the
Yeah.
peso number.
I wonder if you actually close the transaction then in US dollars? You do,
Yeah.
right? So the day you close, you have to convert into US
In
dollars.
the US, yeah.
Interesting.
So if it keeps going down,
So if it keeps going down, yeah, and this is something we're going to talk about because
Yeah.
I don't want it to go down. I'd like to stay right where it is for now until
Yeah.
I sell and move money back, and then it can go down and I'll move money back down.
yeah, exactly.
So 287 for one, roughly the same price for the other.
Correct.
So for context, 957 square meters times 10.7, that's approximately how many square feet are in a square meter? About 10,239. So that's like a 100 by 100 would do that, or you could have a 100 by
About
100
by
lot.
100, yeah. Just a nice
Yeah.
big square.
Is that what it is basically?
Basically, yeah.
Okay, so decent sized lot, and you're gonna build what on that?
We're going to build roughly a 6,500 square foot villa. Converted it
6,500
Yeah.
square foot.
because we've done a lot coverage, and the lot coverage is about 30% of the lot coverage. And then you
Yeah,
can
and
go
then
up
2
3
stories. 3 stories?
Yeah.
Okay.
2 stories with like a covered roof.
So your garage
Type
counts towards your
terrace.
coverage.
Everything counts towards
Okay,
the coverage.
and this is
in
as
Mexico.
of right.
Yep.
So you don't need a zoning change or anything
No
like that.
zoning change, nothing. This is
Yeah.
all approved with inside our master
Okay.
plan community.
All right, so you're saying 6,000 and how many square feet?
About 6,500 square
6,500?
foot. But again, like you said, that
Yeah.
includes garage, that includes your pool, that includes like finished space outside as well.
That's all in that
That's
6,500.
all in 6,500. So the house might be, let's call it like 4,800 or 5,000
Okay.
square feet.
And do you know what your total cost to build that is?
Total cost of everything, we were roughly around, that was another 970,000 because the cost per square foot is about $150 USD
Okay, and that's like all in cost,
all in. And that's,
including the pool, but that's based on the 6,000 or 6,500.
yeah.
Okay.
And that was supposed to be luxury grade. We got a couple other quotes. Somebody came in at like $70 a square foot. One
Yeah.
was at $100 a square foot. But we are, within this villa, what we're trying to do is really hit
Yeah.
the top of the market.
You got to work with somebody who's going to do it right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. We're going to get stuff imported. We're going to make it look really,
Yeah.
really nice because it has to for Airbnb as well. Right.
Yeah.
It has to for the designs, but it also has to on Airbnb so it stands out against the rest.
Oh yeah, if you want to crush. Okay, so I'm getting about 1.257 million US.
Exactly it.
And let's just assume you're doing the same thing basically twice.
Yeah.
What are you selling that for? The one that you're going to sell?
So conservatively, we're going to say 2.5 million.
2.5.
Yeah.
So,
I think there's a really good chance we get over 3 million. When we were down there, we saw 2 different villas that had already
Yeah.
sold for 3 and 3.3.
yeah.
We're closer to the beach, and I think we're going to have a way better design.
Okay, so assuming construction costs stay the same,
Yeah.
you are basically going to pay for one with the other.
Exactly.
And then you'll be net zero on there, maybe have a few bucks left in your account to
Yeah.
cover some carrying costs. When you're all done, do you know what your property tax is going to be on the one that you keep?
Property taxes are very, very cheap in Mexico.
Super low?
Like
Okay.
Super,
Like a
super
couple
low.
grand a year? Or?
Like laughable. I think they said roughly it should be about $2,000 a year.
And no cartel tax.
No cartel tax.
Okay. And then insurance, you're going to be,
Insurance was also very cheap. I think it was like $2,500 a year when we were doing the math.
plus 2,000. So that, and then you're going to have maintenance and consumables and a few other things. Like
Yep.
we could come up with a percentage, but what do you figure your revenue is going to be?
So we figure on Airbnb we should be around $300,000, and then with an expense ratio you could use like 35%.
35% would be all your expenses,
Would be
including taxes,
everything,
insurance, and everything,
and
So,
management as well too.
yeah, those 300,000. So you're going to be keeping 65% of it.
Yeah.
Times 0.65. So when this is all done, you're looking at keeping about $195,000 a year US.
Conservatively, honestly.
Divide that by 12. So
Yeah.
that's a monthly cash flow of $16,250, no mortgage.
Exactly. And again, this is going back to it
Yeah.
where I'm like, the numbers had to be so good for us to
Yeah.
do this because it is in a different country and there is
Yeah.
obviously risks included, right?
Where was my invite on this deal?
There'll be more. Don't worry. We got 2 more lots coming. So
Yeah, that's solid. So maybe we'll take some of my Florida profits and we'll shovel
roll it in.
something in. So, I mean, that's the other question. How cash intensive was it to do this?
So the greatest thing with this is deposit for them. We're very cheap up front, and they give you a longer term to come up with the remainder deposit. So we're 30% down to firm up, and we need the remainder 70% when we start construction. So
you have to lump sum them up front?
Lump sum 30% up front.
Yeah.
And then you could either choose to pay monthly, or you can just choose to wait until you start construction to close completely on the land.
Okay, so let's step back a second here. So I'm looking at construction and land closing as separate. You're saying you can do that all together?
Yes.
So is the current owner of the land the constructor?
No, we would be the constructor.
So you're going to be the constructor. You're going to hire your own GC.
Exactly.
Okay, so the land, are you working out a vendor take back with the seller or anything like that?
No, you basically have like the promissory agreement. It's almost like an agreement for sale in Mexico.
Okay.
Right. So you put your 30% down with like an agreement to purchase
from the owner.
Oh,
right? but while the owner still owns it, you start building it.
Correct.
You can.
If you want to start construction, you have to close on the rest of the land. So you have to come up with the remainder 70%.
Oh, okay. So up until you put a shovel in the ground,
exactly.
Then
so
you can finish your close. Okay.
Yeah. So our idea is we're going to put the 30% down. We're going to design these two beautiful villas, and we're going to post them both for sale. Right.
Okay.
And we're likely going to post them.
And you're going to try and get a sale on one of them.
On one of them, yeah.
Before you break ground.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And then with that, are you going to try and secure a construction mortgage?
We might, but I mean, if we sell it to the market, typically what somebody's going to do is they're going to put down 30%, and we're just going to use that to fund, right? So we're basically going to be the middle person for that, because what a lot of people don't want to do in Mexico is kind of do the dirty work, like what we've done. Go down there, meet builders, meet contractors, and like really get the team set up.
Everyone wants it just done for them. People
exactly
don't have patience. You get paid for patience. I say that a lot.
100%.
You really do, though. Like being willing to do construction, it's like you're just writing a post-dated check to yourself.
Yep.
Like that's how I look at pre-construction. I mean, granted, things can happen and it is a little uncomfortable, but I mean, I looked at flippers in Florida and they were making little peanuts. And then I looked at the spread on the new construction. I'm like, why aren't more people doing this?
Exactly. Well, and that's the first thing we saw with Mexico, because the cost of construction is so cheap. But when you're selling in the market, it's still not like...
these people want done.
Yeah, people want done, right?
Yeah.
Or people want brand new, and they're willing to pay done prices if it's going to be brand new and if it's going to be the way they want it. Because if they buy it at concept plan, there's still enough time that they could actually change the plans and like, oh, I want my master bedroom to be a little bit bigger, or I want it to face east, not west, or they can still have the ability to change it at that point.
Oh, so you're going to allow them to customize it a bit. Oh, that sounds not fun.
not fun, but I mean, worth it if they want to pay the $2.5 million.
Yeah. So you'll have your experiences with that one. That's not a 100% awesome experience, but hey, the money at the end of it and keeping it will hopefully make that all worthwhile.
Make it worth the stress.
Yeah. But that's a really, really cool project. Yeah, what do you see as like possible negative outcomes throughout the process? And what type of contingencies will you have? Dealing with your contractor and what they might do, what kind of risk exposure you take?
Yeah, I would say the first exit strategy we've thought about is like, what if this doesn't sell? Like, what if we post up this beautiful villa and it doesn't sell, and we basically just wasted $15,000 on like designs and permits and everything? Because it's possible, right?
Yeah.
The idea for us is we really just flip the land to somebody else, right? We bought it at 300 square meter. Right now they're selling at 550 a square meter. We're not allowed to flip it until the project's sold out. So they're, I think, at like 42% sales. But I mean, there's already a spread because we got in so early.
Yeah.
Right. So that's our first contingency. I mean, if we get into construction throughout the entire project, I mean, there is contracts. I know it's Mexico, but there is contracts. So there is going to be legalities throughout the entire process as well.
Yeah.
Right. So there obviously could be complications, but it would be no different than it's like here.
What's the deal with your general contractor there? How do you pay them and how much and when? Like they all want a deposit, and we all hate deposits.
Yeah.
You know me.
I know. Very, very similar to here though. Like it's all up to negotiation. There's not like set in stone, right? It's kind of a negotiation with them. We'll pay them a deposit now. You wait for the next deposit, and then they continue doing construction. But the builder that we found is very organized. He said everything's in an Excel spreadsheet. We update it every day. This was done. This was done. This is tomorrow. And he said they keep it very, very nice for us.
Yeah.
So,
and he speaks good English?
Fantastic English.
Where's he from? Is he native?
Yeah, he's from Mexico City. So his family's been in construction his entire life. He's been in construction his entire life.
Yeah.
Speaks perfect English.
Love it.
So we love that.
Yeah. I think construction, again, one of those things that people just mystify and think like, oh, it's over my head. No, it's not. Like, it's really not. Like, I'm not saying go be your own general contractor tomorrow. That's hard and not that rewarding sometimes. But hiring a general contractor, this is, for me, one of the biggest risks in investing I ever took was giving that first deposit to the general contractor in Florida, because I don't do that. I specifically teach people not to do that. So it was an educated risk. And it's an exposure that I was willing, and I had a lot of references to prove to myself why I could and should, just because of who this lady knew and how we were connected. So that's big, right? Like, is this guy connected to anybody you know? Does he have anything to lose?
Yeah, he definitely has a reputation to lose.
Yeah.
We walked through multiple projects that he has on the go. We walked through some of the stuff that he's already completed. He got referred to us from 2 different people.
Okay, so he's done work for them?
Yeah, he's done work for them. So, I mean, they were all super happy with the construction.
Sure.
We walked some of his current sites to see kind of what the construction project looks like.
Yeah.
And then we walked his actual house that he built in Tulum, and it was just incredible. Like, jaw-dropping. Wow. Like, we got super, super excited, obviously, after seeing that.
I like it, man. Like, go where the deals make sense. Like, obviously, there's a political climate. There's a tax. There's tax knowledge you'll have to acquire. We were talking about this before we jumped on camera here, but it sounds like, I mean, Mexico is similar to the States in that, like, they have states. I've heard that they have a very similar constitution. I've never done any research on this, but we even talked about the tax rate for corporations in wherever you're investing. Is it state by state? You have to form a corporation in that state of Mexico?
So don't quote me on this as well.
Because you haven't formed your structures yet, right?
No, exactly. And I've only looked into Tulum. I haven't actually.
So you're saying it's like 28% or something like that?
Yeah.
Which is like, what it is in Florida.
Yeah. They were quoting us 21%.
Okay.
But again, it's very similar. If you have the corporation, you can have a huge amount of write-offs. Like, you can write off the entire construction of the project.
Yeah.
Right. So there's obviously a lot of write-offs to do.
Yeah. So assume you're just going to get taxed on your profit.
Yeah.
And then you take that money and you can keep on rolling. Now, that's the one thing. Like, you're going to sell one to keep the other. You're going to hope you have enough money to pay the taxes, so you're not a little shortfall and coming out of pocket on that one.
And if we've got to come up with a little bit extra money, I mean, like you said, even in the Airbnb, if you're making $200,000 a year, hopefully that's enough after 1 year to recoup it.
$16,000 US coming back into your account.
And I'm being conservative. I'm being conservative because when you look on Airbnb, there's literally like 17 villas right now, over 5 bedrooms in Tulum, and none of them are close to the beach. Everything's like kind of in town. If you've ever, you've been to Tulum, right?
No.
Have you? Okay. Well, there's 2 different cities. There's like the town and there's like the beach.
Okay.
And everything is in town. Nothing's really close to the beach other than the beach clubs.
Yeah.
Like, our development's 900 meters away from the beach. It's like the closest development that you can get to.
Super cool.
So, I mean, I'm hoping that also helps us get a higher price, but I mean, time will tell.
How's Tulum compared to like a place like Nosara in Costa Rica?
Oh man, tough.
Like, Nosara is very like yoga-y, like kind of community.
Yeah, I mean, Tulum has that side of it.
Yeah.
Like, it literally has that part of Tulum, which is very yoga-centric, which is very about meditation and healing and everything else. But it also has more like the party side. It has the business side. It has more. It just has more going on, right?
Yeah. Nosara is a very quiet little village.
Right. After 10 o'clock, it kind of quiets down.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy.
Where Tulum, I'm pretty sure you can find a party at any time of the night.
Yeah. So if you want that little mix, you got it there.
It has a good balance, right? To me, I always like the balance, and it has a really nice balance of both worlds.
Oh man, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So is this is where your focus is right now? Are there other main like focus pieces? I know what we're doing together. Obviously, that's a piece of your focus right now, especially with summer coming up, and we're building out our hospitality empire, which is summer.
that's my main focus.
Yeah,
like, Tulum was my fun, but then coming back here and the business that we got going on, that's gonna be my main focus for the next couple of months. Yeah,
and we're I don't know how much I'll give away on what we're doing, but so our partnership group, we're kind of scheming about our hospitality empire and what we're going to do and how big we're going to grow. And I see it more as like, yes, we've started in Tobermory. We started with the campground and we've got more stuff on the way. But I also see potential to expand provincially, interprovincially, and then also internationally.
Would love to.
Because we're both already doing international investing. Like, I'm so big on you go where the deals make sense. Like, within your own competencies, you can't expand outside of your competencies. But if you have the ability and you can get, help in different areas, like, we know so many people, and that's the beautiful thing about our network. like for instance, Spencer and Ashley have been on this show. They know how to manage Airbnbs. So like, you know, just even having their insights on things is so helpful.
Oh, big time.
Yeah. And their model too, where they get boots on the ground in different cities and stuff like that. I got to have them back on the show to share kind of what they're up to lately.
Yeah, you should. They're great.
So Zach, I wanted to shift gears into talking about what the heck's going on in the world. I don't remember where we were at last time. I think it was like lockdowns were started. And,
I think so.
Yeah, but I'd have to go back and watch that episode. So talk to me a bit. Like, I know you're into Bitcoin investing. I'm obviously not. I don't like fiat, but we can agree to disagree on some of that. But I think we both agree that there's both currencies, Canada, US, there's some weird stuff happening. Give me your synopsis of what you're seeing happening.
Yeah, I mean, I've always, you know, ever since I learned more about crypto, I've always thought that it has its space in the world, right? It has its space in my portfolio, and it has its space, maybe not today, but in someday for everybody out there. And the real reason is you just cannot print more than what its already locked value is.
With Bitcoin
Bitcoin specifically, it's a programmable asset.
Unless it's Dogecoin, which...
Yeah, we're not talking about all the other ones, right? Like, and that's the thing. These other coins, you know, take the heat, right? But Bitcoin at its true core, just a programmable asset, and it has a strict amount, and it can never be messed with. Nobody can ever come in and increase it, decrease it. It's just set in stone. And I just love that.
The only counter to it, I would say, I mean, well, not only, but one major counter is I think the technology is kind of cool, like the idea of blockchain and that like every party must agree to what a transaction was. But with that comes no privacy, because your wallet can't truly be private if every other wallet needs to agree on what happened in your wallet, right?
Fair enough.
So there must be a way that they can find out who you are, right? You can't truly be incognito like you can with real physical, you know, gold coins or...
No, you can't.
Or fiat cash.
And this is interesting that you bring that up, though, because some people are like, well, all the criminals use crypto. And it's like, well, they shouldn't be using crypto because you could never be truly private in crypto. You could
This is why I don't think cash is actually ever going anywhere. Because the cartel will always want cash.
Exactly.
And, you know, they probably know some people in government. I'm assuming that they do.
They probably got to know one or two people.
Hey, hang on. We're going to still have to have some cash.
Yeah, right. I don't know. That's why it's funny that you argue that point, because some people argue it the opposite way and say, well, isn't all the criminals using crypto? And it doesn't make sense because...
Well, but the government doesn't
traceable.
Truly want to catch criminals.
Right?
Not all.
If you want something not traceable, cash is the only thing that's not traceable.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, you could do gold coins. But, you know, one of the things I even found with that is like... so I had some gold coins go missing on me, which was super frustrating. You know, I filed a police report. When I was down in Florida, I found out. So anyways, I returned, well, I cashed out some of the other ones I had there. Yeah. And they take your ID. So like, cash is the only true anonymous. I mean, you can trade gold coins between people and they're probably not going to ID it. But if you want anonymity, we're going to need something physical that we can trade with each other.
Yeah.
Even eggs.
After going up, what did they go up? 80%?
Yeah.
80%.
Like wild, man. If you got some grass-fed, free-range eggs, I haven't eaten an egg in like 6 years, but I almost want to get some chickens to start selling some.
I went away on a trip and then I come back and everybody's like, yeah, eggs are the best performing asset of the year. And I'm like, what? Eggs? Couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously there's a lot of hype with Bitcoin now.
Yeah.
You know, it had a previous high, it'd come down, but now with all these different countries coming off of US dollar for like buying oil or trading, it's going to drop the demand for US dollar. Here's the interesting conundrum, and I'd like to get your take. Like US dollar has been propped up by the fact that everybody trades using it. You know, Mexican real estate's using US dollar.
Yeah, exactly.
When will that come off? Will it? As that changes, demand for the dollar goes down. Theoretically, the dollar should become worth less. Canada does not have that same circumstance. Canada, we've got a dollar that is just what it is. And I think a lot of our policy kind of keeps us sub the US dollar.
Yeah.
Do you see a change in the near future where maybe the Canadian dollar will become worth more than the US dollar?
Can I see it happening? I mean, it's possible. And I think it's only possible mainly just because of emotions.
Yeah.
Right? Because the US dollar right now, if you look in the news, is just getting beaten everywhere you look, right? They
Yeah.
talk about BRICS. Everyone's talking about getting away
Yeah.
from the US dollar.
Yeah.
There's never any
Every
mention
single
of the
day.
Canadian dollar, right?
Yeah.
And
No, but no
emotions,
one's trading in the Canadian dollar.
That's what I mean.
That's my point. Like, Canadian dollar is where it is based on, current interest rates, bond yields, current level of trade and export.
Yep.
Like, that's not really going to change much. So granted, we value ourselves against the US dollar, but if the US dollar were to come down, I mean, for one, I just look at it as a buying opportunity. If it does happen,
Yeah.
well, I guess we'll get some discount real estate at that point in
Yeah.
time. Like, I'm always thinking cost averaging, like, and you can't stop for fear of those things.
No, of course not. And, is the US dollar going to go to zero? Probably not, right? They're
No.
too powerful to allow that to happen.
Well, there's still the media and influence culture of the world,
Yeah.
right? Like, no matter what, they shape the entire world's media. The eyes are always, like, I shouldn't say always, but for a very long time, they're going to be on the US.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It doesn't matter if people stop trading in their dollar. Like, it's still like the land of opportunity. It's still seen as one of the freest places on this earth. So yeah, like
tough.
this is what creates most debates I have with people on this show is like, there's two sides. There's two sides, and who knows where you land.
I don't think anybody really knows, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's got the magic ball, but
it's kind of like a race to the bottom between those two currencies anyway, right? Like, I mean, what Canada's done in the money printing and US has done the same. Both are going to fall. Like, and part of me thinks, well, they'll fall in unison. And then the other part of me is looking at the fact that, well, Canada never had the whole thing where the whole world trades in their dollar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why I think there's less FUD about Canada than there is about the US dollar. So the US dollar could see that rapid decline only because of the media and how it's portrayed in all these other countries. Where it's Canada, nobody cares about us. We're up north.
It's true.
We're kind of off on our own. Like you said, we're doing our own thing. We got GDP going. We got people using our currency, but not nearly to the levels that they do with the US.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think we kind of, are off in the distance where nobody's really too concerned about us. It's not a bad place to be.
Not a bad place to be. I suppose.
Could be worse.
I mean, obviously we have our own inflation issue. Like, it'll be so interesting to see what happens in the future. Like how barter pops up. I think like a ton of opportunities actually coming for people who can produce things. Like, because you're going to start to see things just get so expensive. It's silly that you're going to see people say, well, I've got some stuff, I can make that.
Yep.
And I think there's going to be a lot more people kind of making their own thing.
Some unique opportunities maybe within there.
Yeah, it's going to create opportunities.
Yeah.
So knowing kind of what's happening in the world last few years, obviously Mexico's on your hot list. Do you see yourself doing more there? Are you looking at the US as well? Like, what countries, based on the whole geopolitical circumstance, are appealing to you now?
Yeah, I absolutely love Mexico, right? In terms of what we're talking about here with the currency being really strong. I think the United States is something I want to explore more. I was saying that to somebody the other day. I don't think I've been back to the US with a real estate investing focused mindset since I kind of got into this whole business.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love to go back down there now, knowing what I know, and really just explore what different opportunities are down there.
Weren't you just in Nashville like last year?
That was, again, not for real estate, right? That was, for different reasons. So I want to go down there on more like a real estate focused type of trip to really see what kind of opportunities are down there. Because I see a lot of people going down there. Obviously, you're down there, and it obviously is intriguing. So I think that would be kind of the next spot I would take a look at.
I hadn't looked in a while. I looked yesterday, and like, oh, boom! Every single day we're getting like $1,000 in the account.
Yeah, exactly. It's fantastic.
I like when that starts happening in the spring. And we've obviously, so this is a decent time to kind of talk about what we've done and kind of created. So last year we bought the camp in 2021 November. First season, we didn't have a whole season because we were late to the
Very
start.
tough.
Like, we were, it was setting up our booking systems, getting photos, and glamping was a whole new thing. So it's like starting a new business. Half season. This is our first full season coming up. And the big difference here is we were taking reservations in January. We were getting reservations, some directly.
Our first booking was probably the first week of January.
Yeah, and that we didn't open it up until then.
Yeah.
So we've started getting, we're on the multiple platforms like Booking.com, Airbnb, and then direct through our website, Grotto Getaway. For anyone who's not familiar with it, it's glamping. So it's tents. We have these big 16-foot diameter tents with queen beds in them. Decorated to the nines in a really picturesque setting. We've got our glamping trailers, which we're expanding. So that's another big thing we're doing this year. Acquiring trailers and also exploring the opportunity to JV with people with really cool, unique trailers to put them on our site. So if you're listening to this and you think you've got a cool, unique trailer, pitch it to us, and
out.
we can work out a JV on it, where we manage it and, you know, put it on the site, and it could work out really well.
Yeah, it could be a good little side cash for somebody who's, you know, not looking to use their trailer a lot this year, maybe wants to travel and not actually use it. Just talk to us and let's do a JV this year.
Well, and there could be you know, we could work something out where you get a weekend, you know, or two, depending on the circumstance. So yeah, definitely somebody listening to that, you want to pitch it to us, by all means, please do. Like, the key thing is unique. Like everything, like take a look at our website, grottogetaway.com. We're trying to stay away from just like a typical branded trailer. Like we're really trying to go for, this is truly unique and memorable. Like you're not going to see this just anywhere.
Something you feel like you want to post on Instagram and tell your friends about, and get them all to come to Grotto Getaway.
So let's give people an idea of what it looks like what one of our trailers look like, if we're, you know, from an investor standpoint. Like last year, I'm thinking in our numbers, I think our best trailer did like 18,000 on a short season. On a short season,
And I think the earliest we had a trailer up and running might have been like the week before Canada Day. I think we had the Terry up and running.
Yeah, so it was late.
An even shorter season than even the tents had, right? So I've been talking to people about $25,000 to like $30,000, kind of like.
So that's a potential, and we will see, right? Because you couldn't, even if you had a comparable. This is Tobermory. Like you won't necessarily have a glamping comparable in Tobermory with a unique trailer, and in our world, no two trailers are alike. So everything's, you know, it's got to be figured out as we go. But key thing is we've got the really cool spot, the really cool views, and we'll make them look really good. So we've bought some new ones. We're renovating them right now. We're getting into, you know, buying stuff around, I think the first two are like 12 grand or something, 14, something like
12, 13,000.
And obviously plus HST, but we're a registrant, so we get all that back. And then we're renovating. We're probably looking at about 20 grand on these. And if they did, I mean, this is the challenge. These are going to launch a little late too. But say they did a full season at 30, that's 100% ROI.
I know. See, it's a fantastic model.
Yeah. And Jake and I broke down the tents on one of our REI hot seat episodes, and it's like insane ROI. It's like even more than 100%. But the thing I like about the trailers, and I like to have a balance, and I'm sure you could probably agree, it's like salvage value. Like these trailers are saleable as they are.
I mean, the tents, what's the salvage value there? Right?
Not much.
Nothing. I don't, maybe a couple dollars, but these trailers are actually going to have some weight behind them as well.
Oh yeah, you could just, you know, we could just put them up for sale. Somebody could take them away. So the nice thing with the tents is they pay back really quick. The lumber's the most expensive part of it. It's the deck,
which at least is down compared to where it was last year.
So it's come down a bit. But yeah, last year we were into about $7 grand a deck. So we ended up, you know, 11 grand per tent setup, but super cool. And very I'm looking forward to seeing how this year goes. Like to be transparent with the audience and just kind of tell them like what we're doing. I'd love it for you to come stay with us.
Absolutely.
You know, I wish we had can we do like a code if somebody's listening to this episode?
If you start a code, then I can figure out a way to put the code
What do we want to make the code? It's like a special discount for somebody who's listening to this episode who wants to come stay with us. It would work through our website, would it?
Yep, I can put it through the website.
Yeah, so Zach handles this, as you can tell. So we'll call it, AH Podcast?
Yeah, make it simple for me.
AH Podcast. Okay, so if you use the code, all capital, AH Podcast, Zach will get that up and running. And we'll do, what discount do we want to do?
You could say a 15% discount.
Yeah, 15% discount for listening to this podcast. We'll keep this active for at least a month or two. For people who are listening to this a little bit late. But yeah, we'd love to host you. Come stay with us. I think you'll like it.
I think you'll love it.
I think you'll love it. Yeah. Okay. Zach, anything else you would want to comment on what we've done, your takeaways from it? Like, have you learned something new from it?
I would say probably my favorite takeaway with this property is I love, you know, we get some really interesting guests coming out there, and you see the messages come back and forth on Airbnb, and we get a lot of people having like their anniversary up there. We see a lot of people having honeymoons up there, and it just feels so cool to be a part of that experience with somebody. And I know me and you talked about this the other day. I would love for us to expand into like the wedding type of venue as well too, right? So somebody could come up there and actually host their entire wedding there, and we would help them with that, and we would have enough trailers and enough tents that we could maybe comfortably sleep like 75 people. And then have them bring up their own tents and trailers. And then I just think it would be such a cool venue for something like that, and just a very unique experience. And everybody I talk to that's getting married or thinking about getting married, the cost of these wedding venues are just outrageous.
That's one of the
also,
businesses I've wanted to get into for
and
a
they're
while.
booking out like 3 years in advance. So I'm
Yeah.
like, if we could make this a win-win situation so that it's cheaper for them to come up there and have their wedding out there in the summertime, it's going to be stunning. Or even in the fall.
So the
when the leaves
pictures
are
on the
changing.
main, like, we have this like private laneway for those who haven't been there, and where all our glamping tents are, and like it reminds me of pictures that I did at my wedding.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you hold hands walking down it, and there's trees over, and it's all shaded, and it's like it's very picturesque. So I think you got the photo element there. I've been wanting to get into that business ever since I got married, because I'm like, holy crap, people spend a lot of money on weddings. Like, the money's there. So a big thing I'm thinking about, and I've talked about this on the podcast a lot, is I'm always looking for additional ways to monetize, as I think you are too. Like, what else could we do to not just think inside the box, but expand the box, think outside the box, and developing. We talked about potentially being able to sever land off of it. We have 90 acres. So, you know, there's a land severance opportunity. There's repurposing multiple venues. We could potentially look at zoning changes down the road. The new one we're looking at has a more beneficial zone that we can use, and also has land. So the opportunity to grow, it's just about putting in the time. Yeah. And like, even just growing with our glamping, we have 70 bylaw approved sites. So like, that's a lot of room to grow.
That's a lot of room to grow.
Like right now for our glamping business, we're going to be up to like probably 20 sites used
20,
out of the
25.
70, some, you know, so there's still room to grow. And like, I think a big takeaway for me on this is really honing in on property that has added potential. And
for sure,
I want to make sure that properties I buy from here on in are that way, because I want to scale. And the thing I notice about, like, when you do the small BRRRRs, not that there's anything wrong with them, it's like the same amount of time as doing a big BRRRR.
Yeah, they're a lot of time consuming, right? And I think what I also love about our campground too is it is a full-blown business, right? It's not just real estate. And I think the more that I continue to grow in real estate, the more I also just fall in love with business. Yeah. I just like owning businesses as much as I like owning real estate. I just love all the intricacies that we've been through, even just as a partnership.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have full-time employees, and we were just talking about how I want to have somebody full-time in our business year-round, project managing, pushing, if we're working on developing our land, pushing that forward, pushing other initiatives forward, so we can keep growing. And that's why we got to scale out the empire.
I know. to be determined.
To be determined and continued. So Zach, anything else you would want to share with our audience?
We're not going to share the news site yet. We're going to keep the news site under wraps.
Yeah, we gotta have a special reveal for that one.
Special reveal for the news site.
Yeah, we got something coming. It's gonna be awesome. Stay tuned. Make sure you're following Zach and I on Instagram, following this podcast, and I'll talk about it. Zach, on that note, where do people find you?
Yeah, Instagram's probably the best, at Zac Willms, ZACWILLMS. The best way. Reach out to me.
Awesome. And then words of wisdom, obviously, like, you're, for me to summarize what I take of you, like, you're obviously very obsessed with personal improvement, development, growing mindset. Like, you're masterminding with really smart, intelligent, capable, experienced, accomplished people. Anything you would add as a takeaway of, like, people who want to take it to the next level? They've been playing in that smaller space, and they want to scale.
Yeah, it's going to sound cliche, man, but when you talk about these masterminds and when you talk about the different groups I'm a part of, always just try to be the small fish, right, in a room full of big fish, right? Surround yourself with people that are just doing bigger, better things, that just know more about the business than you know. It's super cliche, but I'm telling you right now, there's a reason why people say it so often.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and it's so true. Even hearing people come to our mastermind and speak who are like light years ahead of us, they all say the exact same thing too. They pay to get in rooms of people that know more than they know about business and life.
Just hang out with them,
hang out with them, and the amount of little nuggets you're gonna get are just, it's life changing.
That's why I'm willing to pay for coaching myself. Like, I'm willing to do these things because like, and what do you look at that? Like, would you look at like a really accomplished coach that you pay as being equivalent to that, or you would rather just get in the room with multiple people who are doing it and just giving back?
It really depends where you're at in life. For me, in my life, I wanted to be in the room full of people for the different opportunities that come from there. my partners in Tulum are also from those types of rooms.
Yeah.
Right. Like that. I like those types of partnerships.
Yeah, because you're all thinking the same way. You're all willing to
Exactly.
invest in your own personal growth.
Exactly.
I mean, I look at the biggest thing, like our mastermind, for instance, that I hosted. One of the biggest things about it was, and we told all our attendees, was like, you're sort of applying a filter, because anyone who's not that serious about doing this didn't pay the ticket to get here.
For sure.
And with the mastermind you're doing, I know there's a ticket attached to that.
Yep.
And it just forces you to get into a room full of people who are serious.
Yeah, and forces you to take it more seriously.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing with coaching. Like I've done free coaching before, but I think if you pay for coaching or you pay for masterminds, there's a certain level of you that's like, oh, I got to get something out of this. Yeah. So I'm going to put more energy and effort into it so that I can find what I'm getting out of this.
And if you want your coach to take it seriously, pay them. Otherwise, they're not going to take it seriously.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, what can you really expect? So, Zac, great doing this, because we don't really do these casual chats very often. It's always so down to business, which which is good and not at the same time. Obviously, I'm guilty of a lot of this because of being a new dad, and it's hard.
Yeah, it's all good.
But getting my feet under me. But let's get out and golf this summer.
Sounds good.
And we'll
teach me a few things.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, Zac, good seeing you.
Awesome. Good seeing you too,
Catch you on the next one.
Yep.
There are a lot of people out there talking about the infinite banking strategy and whether or not it makes sense for them. To find out what it's all about and if it's a fit for you, visit controlandcompound.com/Andrew Hines, where my audience can gain exclusive access to books, podcasts, and webinars tailor-made for real estate investors.